Anyway, what I want to ask you about, when you were on Ripple Effect, I was quite surprised by some of the, when you were talking about the transportation of oil, like they charged 30 million quid to transport oil or something from for 13 miles or something, just something absolutely ridiculous. And you see that all ties into why these people are doing these things.
Well, yeah, it's again, we're talking about the military-industrial complex, and the incident that you're talking about was a no-bid contract that was awarded to, guess who? Halliburton. And this no-bid contract was to transport 30,000 pounds of liquid propane fuel from Kuwait to Baghdad, about 300 miles. So I did a little research. I was living in Missouri at the time, and from the east of Kansas is St. Louis. The east of Missouri is St. Louis, Missouri, and on the west is Kansas City, Missouri, about 300 miles. So
I've traveled that road.
Yeah, I contacted a liquid propane company in St. Louis, and I also contacted another one in Kansas City, and I asked them same questions. I said, how many trucks would it take for that amount of fuel? And they said approximately 10 trucks. Oh. I said, okay, and how much would you charge to transport that fuel that 300 miles? And they all agreed that it was, about $1 a mile, plus the cost of the fuel, and about $300, $350, something like that. I said, so you would charge $300 to have this truck drive this fuel across the state, And they said, yeah. So I said, okay, well, what if this was a government contract? And they said, oh, gosh, you'd probably be able to charge, 4 or 5 times that amount. I said, okay, so let's say instead of 3,000, let's say 15,000. Would that be? She says, oh, yeah, for sure. We could do it for that. I said, okay, and that would be times, that would be 15,000. And they said, right. So the question was, how much was Halliburton charged or awarded, shall we say, for doing the same job, transporting 30,000 pounds of liquid propane fuel 300 miles from Kuwait to Baghdad? The answer was 22.1 or $23.1 million. Now, that's what government contracts are all about. And this is why the powers that be lust for war. Common sense, decency, humanity, forget it. None of that matters. There's the old saying, one death is a tragedy. 100 deaths is a statistic. They don't care about how many people die. They really don't. As long as there's a profit to be made, they'll make it happen. That's their mentality.
Yeah. Psychopaths.
Yep.
Yeah, we know that anyway, don't we? We can see it's happening at the moment. We had this, I don't know if you know about this, Dave, but we had this situation with a baby that was in
he died yesterday.
The Alfie Evans case, and the baby. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But we're allowing these people to get away with it. But I think something you said at the very beginning is that we're either going to have a really slow one, or it's going to be a bloody revolution.
Right. I said we have to either have a knockdown, drag him out, bloody revolution, or our only other option is to get out of the way and wait for this whole system to collapse under the weight of its own corruption. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying. But it seems that the system seems to be shooting itself in the foot more and more. And it seems that, like you say, more and more people are waking up to what is going on, and this exponentially people. You only have to mention something to somebody, and they'll know what you're talking about. You only have to say a couple of words, and they'll know what you're talking about. Whereas years ago, they would have gone, "What are you talking about?" Eddie, go on. You want to ask a question?
Yeah, of all the things that we discussed, that's from 9/11 right across what Dave's just been talking about, and all the other subjects that we talk about. A lot of them are centered in the United States. And one thing I do want to point out is that we're the little lapdog, but boy oh boy do we benefit, and that's the UK, as much and often more than the US.
Well, my personal opinion is that the U.S. and the U.K. have been joined at the hip for centuries.
Yeah.
And yes, one event will occur that it benefits one country, but eventually the same methodology is going to affect the other country. So, I mean, you're suffering the same type of questions and problems in the U.K. as we are here in the United States. And yes, you're right that a lot of people are waking up, but the problem is that it's become so politically incorrect to even have an opinion. People are afraid to speak up. People know what's going on. Yeah, people are waking up, but they just don't have the testicular fortitude to come forward. And anybody that is able to begin to organize is immediately either discredited or they're offed.